Hello, 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 hello.
Hello.
There. I think I hit everyone.
Did you get everyone started? Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the
I think
Beyond
so.
Nutrition Community podcast. We are so glad you are joining us today for another meaningful conversation. Now, whether you're a longtime listener or brand new to our community, welcome. Here at the Beyond Nutrition community, we believe true wellness goes far beyond calories, macros, and meal plans. We explore holistic approaches to health by reconnecting with our bodies, aligning with nature's rhythm, and creating sustainable wellness physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So, tonight is one of our favorite episodes that we have each month. It's our Coaches Roundtable. So, once a month, our coaching team comes together to share honest conversations about what we're seeing in the coaching world and the challenges our clients face and the breakthrough they experience, and of course, the lessons we believe more people need to hear. So, the purpose of these roundtable discussions is just simple, it's just bringing multiple coaching perspectives together and providing encouragement, education, and practical insights. So, tonight, I'm going to make each one of the coaches introduce themselves. So, let's start with Coach Becky.
Hello, hello. Welcome also to all of the listening platforms as this will be going out on Tuesday. And for some reason, I don't know which one of us, but we are getting feedback on one of the devices. I'm not sure. Maybe it is mine. But anyway, I am a health coach. I have been coaching for several years, and I founded the Beyond Nutrition community after one of the other platforms that I work for. And so I have Beyond Nutrition community, and then my last coaching is done through the aligned metabolism method. That is the process that I have used to lose weight, as well as hormonal changes and thyroid. I had autoimmune conditions, Hashimoto's, and I have used that to reverse all of that. So that is in a nutshell who I am. Who are you, Coach Sly? Ladies first.
Oh, James, we're more of a square table today. That feedback is really bad. Um,
I know. I'm not sure which one of us it is or where it's coming from. So
I'm not for sure either. Um, I am also a coach and a recovering addict. Oh, we found him. Um, and I know I've lost my whole train of thought.
you are a
Yeah.
coach and a recovering addict.
Oh, yeah. I am a coach and recovering addict. I coach for mental health and addiction purposes. I on my way through weight loss, found the connection between mental health and food and addiction and what an important role it plays with that. And so I help others make those make those same connections so they don't have to go through all the things that I went through. And we have developed a 12-step keto program, which the book is out there, hopefully launching the community soon. And I just finally graduated Benton's Holistic Addiction Medicine. So,
Woo!
yay! I should be receiving my certificate for that any day now. We just made our appointment. So, that is me.
Awesome. And as I said, ladies first, Coach Sherri.
All right. Well, usually I do all the talking to get us going and ending. So I am Coach Sherri, and I am a 50-some-year-old woman in menopause, and I have fought my body for decades. I type 2 diabetic, whole list of all kinds of stuff. And about 5 years ago, when the recommendations for the American Diabetes Association failed me and my diabetes got worse, I started to look at something different, right? And so I Googled Dr. Google and went down the path of setting out to changing my whole approach to healing my body. It's been a 5-year journey. In the beginning of it, I lost my best friend of 30 years, and that's a heck of a motivator. But what I've learned along the way is I'm passionate about helping people reconnect with their bodies and trusting the intuition, something that I didn't realize that I needed to tap into as well. And so my approach to the health has come from a holistic and sustainable perspective. So that's kind of who I am. And of course, you guys hear me all the time, every Monday. So again, thank you for tuning in. So we've left the best for last. So Coach James, who are you?
Oh, no pressure then. My name's Coach James, based in the UK. So this is very late for me, very sleep deprived, as always. My background is resistance training and everything that goes along with that. So diet, nutrition, lifestyle. Currently working with Coach Sherri to improve her resistance training and lifestyle, amongst other things. Been a coach for probably 20 plus years now. Vast experience in all forms of exercise and nutrition and everything that goes along with it, along with mental health stuff, a bit like Sly. Kind of dealt with my own mental health thing, which I incorporate into my coaching style as well. And also type 1 diabetic, as per the button. Can you see it? There it is. So had to introduce that into the coaching framework as well. So yeah, quite a varied CV, shall we say.
I love it. Well, I'm honored to be here alongside of you, each and every one of you, for tonight's topic. And tonight's topic is what clients don't hear enough from coaches, right? And we were kind of talking about it before we started, but clients aren't hearing enough of what. Is that why they're staying stuck? Many people believe that they need another diet or another supplement or another workout plan or another piece of information, right? And often the biggest breakthroughs come from hearing the truth. And so that's what we're doing tonight. So we're going to dive right in and let's talk about just some myths that clients often believe when they come to each one of us. Like, what are you hearing?
And no one wants to go first.
I'll go
so
first.
I would say as I say, we kind of were talking before we started, right? I would say the false pretense of expectations, right? Being led with the wrong expectation on timeline. But go for it, James. That's something we were discussing before we hit record.
Yeah. So quite often I'll get clients that come along and they'll come along and say, oh, yeah, I really want to work with you. I really want to improve my physique or improve my lifestyle, improve my habits. And also I've got this wedding or event coming up. Oh, when is it? Oh, it's in 6 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time. And it's like, okay, where were you 12, 16, 18 weeks ago? So it's that whole expectation of results versus what needs to be put in, the work that needs to be put in order to get those results. So it's that kind of unrealistic sort of, okay, I've seen it on TikTok, someone else has done it in 4 weeks, that means I can do it. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's not really how it works. Don't know if you guys have experienced anything similar.
That reminds me of the, have you seen the fruit TikToks of the calisthenic? In 4 weeks, you can go from this to this with calisthenics.
Yeah.
But that's what they're being promised, right? They're promising, somebody's promising them the easy button.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the so-called easy way out, which is never the case. Anything that is worth keeping is sustainable. It needs to be sustainable, you know. I mean, don't get us wrong. I would quite happily work with someone if they were going to pay some money, and I can quite easily diet them down and give them a ridiculous amount of calories, which are too low, you know, and to get them to where they want to be. But then they'd rebound and they'd be worse than they were before they came to see us. But to me as a coach, that's not ethically really right. And I don't think that should really be pushed out to people. But I get it. People want quick fixes. People don't want to put the work in. They just want the results without the work. And that's something that I kind of try and really instill in people. But it doesn't always work. So.
Well, and I think that's where, you know, having the ability to have that honest truth, right, with the client and setting what those real goals are, because a lot of times they don't even know, you know, they have it in mind of what their goal is, but it's not what they're going to be able to claim, right? No matter whether that's fat loss or maybe the strength training or, you know, even mental health, right? They're not going to change it. They didn't get there overnight. They're not going to change it in the next, you know, 48 hours.
Things like fat loss, strength, is based on a curve, you know, and it depends on the effort that person puts in outside of, you know, whether it be personal training sessions or whatever it is. And you can give people meal plans and you can give people habits to try and track and follow, but if they're not going to do it, then they're not going to do it. They're not going to get the results at the end of the day. You know, you can plan it out and you can map it out for them. Whether that be over a 4-week period, a 6, a 12, an 18, or a 24, whatever it might be. But if that person isn't willing to be consistent and be diligent and stick to the plan, then nothing's going to change. They're just going to go constantly round in that cycle, and they'll cycle through coaches as well. They'll bounce from one coach to another, expecting a different result. And you know, it's that old adage of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And you know, I see it quite often.
And I think that's where they try to make everything perfect, right? They see it online, and I think, you know, social media is kind of to the detriment of this, because they see the highlight reels and they see, you know, oh, but they did this and they got these results, or they look like this because they did this, right? And so they think that they have to do this all in 100%, you know, of everything, right? And there's no kind of ebb and flow or evolving, you know, as you kind of go through this. And so when life happens, they maintain this, you know, perfect structure, and then it all falls apart. Right. And maybe they travel, or maybe they, you know, are doing something, right? Maybe it's busy season at work, or maybe, you know, whatever it is. And they've white knuckled for so long that then that ends up and it falls apart and they lose that. Or maybe it's they maintain it, you know, consistency, and then a plateau hits and they don't know how to, you know, or what to do, right? Because there's no, again, fluctuation. I don't eat the same thing every day. I don't do the same thing every day. The workout's not the same every day. You know, there is that variance. And so people don't, you know, adjust for that. They don't also look at the data, right? I'm not saying you have to be a data nerd, but tracking something, right? Whether it's tracking the weight that you're putting on a bar, or the way that you're feeling, or the way that you handle stress, or, you know, tracking something so that you have an idea. Because if you don't have an idea of what you're doing, how do you know what to change, right? You stay set in this trench, if you will. And so you don't kind of get that feedback, and you don't adjust.
Yeah, and there's going to be no progression.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things that you mentioned, you can kind of almost put onto the same thing as progressive overload. So when you mentioned the tracking a weight on the bar, the reduction in the scale weight, whatever it might be, it's all about progressive overload. So that you know, every workout needs to be harder than the last. You need to be doing something different, because otherwise the body, like you said, the body's just going to get used to it. Yeah, the body's not going to change because it's got no reason to.
Well, and that's kind of the same way with, you know, for instance, Sly, where we were talking before we hit record on the mental health side too, you know, so it's not always in the strength, it's not always in, you know, the weight, but sometimes even in the mental health, the emotional, that mental side, right? People get to feeling good, but they haven't created into a lifestyle, so then they stop. And, you know, it's not some, again, it's going back to creating that consistency in the mess, right, is what wins. And so it's not a final, you know, you brought up having a wedding to go to. It's, you need to be able to do something even for mental health, right? If the goal is to ultimately adjust your medication, right, or whatever the case is, you don't just do it and then stop once you get feeling better. It's something to continue on.
Well, that's why I'm very upfront with honest everybody. I do not coach for weight loss. I don't do it. I coach for addiction. I will help you with your mental health and a plan for that. But I just, weight loss can definitely be a great side effect from it all, right? It can be a side effect, but that's how I present the information, because a lot of people, you know, just focus right there on that scale and that's all that they want to see. And so when they come to me, that's how I actually, we were talking earlier about coaches fitting into people, and, you know, not everybody's meant to coach everybody. And that's my first step of, you know, evaluating who I need to coach, right? And who's the right fit for me. So if you're coming to me for weight loss, I'm not your girl. I'm not your girl. So.
And I think that's where people end up and try to monetize, right? They try to end up, because people, once they get to the point where they are reaching out, right? Clients are reaching out. Oftentimes people are like, oh, I can help. I can help. I can, you know, I'll do this. And it's more because, and I'm not saying that there's not honest coaches out there or honest people out there. But a lot of times it is because people are wanting that source of income. People are wanting that, you know, revenue, if you will. And so an honest coach honestly does screen. Like you said, you end up and you screen. If that's what they're coming to you for, refer them on, right? And that's why I offer discovery calls, because if my program isn't, you know, the fit that someone is looking for, having even, you know, what we've created here as, you know, a colleague of coaches, right? I don't have the, you know, experience with mental health, right? So that's where, you know, being able to refer on, or having, you know, the personal training side, or whatever the case may be, as far as, you know, whether they end up and they want, you know, support, and being able to continuously have that referral system, because there are some complex situations. And, you know, like Sherri said, if it's a 50-something-year-old male or female, whatever gender you are, my dear, female that, you know, has struggled. Yes, I struggled through the years, but nothing like what Sherri has gone through. And so that in and of itself is honest for the client. And oftentimes they don't hear that. And I guess that's, you know, okay, coming from a coach, right? The best coaches focus on the client first, not themselves. What
Sorry,
else do you have for?
I started talking and then I was still muted. So something that I see too is my clients are looking for the right diet, right? Or the right supplement or the right program, and they're chasing information, but yet they're lacking in information, right? So because it gets back to the basics. I had one client who it was like, I just want you to eat whole foods. She had no concept of what whole foods was. So we had to go way back. Like we had to pull it way back. Um, what are you guys seeing in that realm of I'm trying to chase that right diet or that right supplement? And Becky, I know your feelings, which I do want you to talk about the supplement side of things, right? All of us actually, or the right program.
For me, working in the treatment centers and stuff like that, and with people in early recovery from other addictions, I really try to just get them rid of the sugar out of their diet and on whole foods. Let's start there. It's the simplest way to go. If their needs are more, if I'm working with somebody that's there for the mental health side, more than just the addiction part of it or early recovery from other things, we might have to do a little bit differently than that. But like, it's still, even within that realm, people are always chasing, like, well, let me try this or let me do that. Or I've had one client, it changes every 2 weeks, and it's like, that's too much, right? And I actually read it in Benton's book today. Everybody's unique, right? There's not you have to find out what works for you, because what works for me and works for Becky and works for Sherri and works for James are 4 different things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's some crossovers in there with things outside of the nutrition part. Maybe there's some crossover there with the nutrition part, but N equals 1. Now I can give you what you need for your mental health, right? I can prescribe a diet for mental health that I know that's going to work, right? But it's still going to look different from each patient after that. Like, what are they willing to eat? What are they not willing to eat? Where are we going to get the fat sources from? What if they don't like animal fat, right? So it's still a wide variety, but like keeping it, but you got to keep it simple too, so they'll even do it. Don't chase it. I did that so bad in the beginning. I tried. Do you know how many keto diets are out there?
A lot.
I have tried a lot of them. I even tried. Does anybody remember Dr. Berg?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that man has helped a lot of people. I know he's helped a lot of people, right? But his particular keto diet wanted me to eat 5 bowls of salad a day, if not 7, 5 to 7 bowls. This girl is not eating 5 or 7 bowls of salad a day. I literally couldn't do it, right? So that diet wasn't right for me. Does it mean the keto wasn't right for me? No. Does it mean that Dr. Berg was wrong? No. It just means that wasn't right for me. I had a little bit more success when I actually started on that, when the Whole Foods diet, that they have a whole set of books of them, but I even tried to cheat. See, I even tried to cheat on that diet. So this is what I was going to do. Instead of eating the 5 bowls of salad, I was going to take X amount of grass wheat shots that he sold, supplement, to try to make up for the 5 to 7 bowls of salad that he wanted me to eat. That's what we do. I was very early on. This was way before coaching.
And I think that is the biggest thing, right? I do see that a lot where people are constantly jumping, right? They feel as though, and I don't necessarily say it jumping, because I didn't jump program to program. Yes, I've done several over the years, but for instance, carnivore, right? I was 2.5 years carnivore. So it wasn't like I did it for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days and jumped to something else. I had gave it a good run, like you said, even carnivore, right, has several different ways of doing it, just like keto has several different ways. And that's where, for me, it is stripping things back to even just, yes, the whole food, right? And that looks different for everyone. And I've had clients say, when you say whole food, what category is that, right? Where do I end up and I put that? What is fruit? What is a vegetable? What is, where does that go? And so even stripping it back to, well, if you were to log something, right, you have protein, fat, and carbs. So no matter whether it's a fruit or whether it's a vegetable, because a lot of times if I tell people to eat carbs, or if I say I'm eating, 30 to 40% carbs, people are thinking like food pyramid, right? The breads, the pasta, the grains, that type of carbs. And yes, I may tolerate certain grains, or I may tolerate certain food that another person wouldn't. But when I speak to adding carbs in there, I'm also talking about, the watermelon or the strawberries, or, whatever source of carb, fructose, and starchy vegetables. But it's more a case of where people are aggressive with the calories or the endless cardio, or, like I said, jumping from things, right? They would try it for, 60 days, or they do these challenges for 75 days, or, whatever, right? And then they're jumping, right? And then it backfires, and then they rebound and they wonder why, instead of creating that sustainable, like, for instance, what I've been able to maintain and do. Yes, now I am, in the building side or maintenance side, or whatever you want to call it. But that's where, in my opinion, if coaches promise an easy or a fast fix without addressing some of the basics, light, sleep, nutrition, then it's liable to backfire on you. Yes, movement is in there too, but it's just some of the basics. Strip it clear back, get back in tune with, what our natural ability of a body should be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, the fundamentals, you got to master those, right? We're talking about literally drinking water, enough water in a day, moving your body. Trust me, I kicked and screamed about moving my body to the point that I finally begged James to help me. Prioritizing your sleep, huh?
You still begging. You still end up in kick and scream. I mean,
I still kick and scream. I don't. I do, but
you do it.
I do it, right? Yeah. But I'm not doing it like I did before. Before it was this, I'm up at 5 a.m. I'm on the treadmill because I got to get it done. I've got to get it in, and I'm going hard and fast, and things like that was actually hurting my body more than it was helping. Managing stress. Holy moly. Um, I've heard it. I know we've all heard it. Oh, are you stressed? Oh, no, I'm not stressed. Probably are, right? And staying consistent. I love the fact that Becky will say, "What can you do on your worst day?" That's huge, right? So it's the simplest habits that create the biggest results for our clients. That's a number one. But let's kind of shift here and talk about, does your environment matter more than your willpower? What about willpower? Who wants to start with that topic?
Willpower will fail you. It will. Willpower will fail you. Discipline will not. What do you think, James?
Willpower is a lot like motivation. It depends on how you feel at the time. If you feel like you want to do it, you'll do it. You can have all the great ideas about, yes, I want to feel good, I want to look good. But ultimately, if you it comes and goes like the tides of the sea, basically. If you want it, you'll do it. Ultimately, if you can talk a good game, but if you can't play the game, you're never going to win. There's 4 analogies in one sentence, so there you go.
Well, you know,
That's my roundabout way of saying, basically, if you want to fucking do it, just fucking do it. Yeah.
well, yeah, but
There's-
even but when somebody's telling you they want to rely on that, I think, like we said, the consistency of doing everything repeatedly. Like, Sherri, when I started working out, I didn't want to fucking work out.
Nobody wants to work out. Why? Because it's
But
hard.
because it's hard.
It's hard. It's out your comfort zone. It's something
But
that you're not. It's not something that you're not used to. But unfortunately, if you want results, you've got to
you
do
have
something.
to.
You've got to do something that your body just doesn't want you to do. Because
Well,
if ultimately, if you're a lazy fucker, then you know you're a lazy fucker, and you know to be an unlazy fucker, you've got to do something. And I apologize for using the F word so much. But I don't fucking care. If you're a lazy person, then to be an unlazy person, you've got to do something that a lazy person doesn't want to do.
and
yes,
consistently
and consistently, and over and over and over again.
until your body makes it a habit, and then you
Yeah.
just do it.
Yeah, until it becomes normal, until it becomes natural, until it becomes just a thing that you do. And then you can look back and think, fuck me, I was a lazy fucker. But now I'm not.
And that's why I will tell people to schedule it into their routine. You know, showing up for yourself first.
Hope you can bleep out all of these, by the way, if this goes like...
Nope, we are live. So welcome to the unedited version of the podcast.
Oh,
Which is fine, right? We always say we're real, we're honest, and we're open. So you don't like it, guess what? Anyway,
unfollow.
But you know, that's where I will tell clients to block it into their schedule, right? Same thing with eating. I get clients that are under eating. Schedule 30 minutes of your day to eat your dang lunch. Schedule, 30 minutes to an hour, whatever your workout session is, right? Pick a time of the day that works for you. Maybe morning isn't your thing. Maybe it's, I do mine middle of the afternoon or in the evening, right? Whatever day it is. Like, for instance, Saturday, it'll be middle of the day. It's whatever works into my schedule as far as what work is like. So that's the biggest thing is people don't put their self first. There's too much of a yes person. And sometimes that yes has to be yourself, and that's coming from a coach being honest to clients about themselves, right? You have to be willing to end up and put in just as much effort, just as much, commitment to yourself as what you would to work.
Yeah, I mean, rely less on the motivation and more on a system. Put the systems in place, right? You set yourself up in a system, healthy options, visible and accessible. What does that mean? That means I meal prep, right? That makes that fatigue of, oh my gosh, I'm hungry. What am I going to eat? I don't have anything, and I'm going to grab the nearest thing to eat. So reduce the decision, right? It's set. My lunch is set for every day this week. It is done. I meal prep every weekend for that. I have our suppers or dinners planned out. It is done. I make enough for 2 nights. Decision fatigue reducing. Build those routines, right? And create the supportive environment. One of the things, and we just said I'm working with Coach James, is he has an app. So I'm built in, the decisions are there for me. I have to go in and plug it in, right? The workouts are all there for me. The decisions are not mine. They're there for me. So it's a routine that is sustainable.
Absolutely. And I think that whole thing with some people is missing. And I think a lot of people need that. And that is not just me pushing online coaching or whatever it might be, but I think it's got to the point now where people are incapable of making decisions for themselves for whatever reason that might be. And I think they just need to be told, you need to do this. You need to do this, this, and this, and you need to do this at this time, or think about doing this at this time. You know, obviously, you know, life gets in the way and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's a way of the world at the moment. Certainly when trying to coach or help people. Anyway.
But that's where the accountability side of having a coach, you know, you said you didn't want to bring up the online coaching, but that's where all four of us, right, having that ability of an online coach and having that person reach out, having that person check in, having that, you know, because it gets it outside of ourselves, right? We are now accountable to someone else. And so there's more reliance on the fact that we'll actually follow through for someone else versus just making that commitment to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, point in case, Sherri, thousands and thousands of miles away. She's accountable to me. And vice versa. As a coach, I'm accountable to her to put things in place to help her, you know, reach her goals. You know, it works both ways. So yeah, 100%, Becky, absolutely.
Well, and we're all accountable to each other. I mean, we're behind the scenes, right, talking to each other as accountability partners to each other. So we have that system in place. You know, I know one time, Sly, you had
A meltdown?
messaged me your meltdown, yeah, and you were like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, get your touch points, and you were like, I didn't think about that, you know. And it was like this quick 2-second accountability, and you know, that's what she needed at the time. But let's shift gears. Let's go back to the I just need to lose weight, right? When I lose weight, everything's going to be better. When I
Lies.
reach my goal weight, right? Let's burn that one up.
Well, I'll start that one. That's not how that works. Um, I mean, for me, I had body dysmorphia. It was worse when I lost the weight than when I was bigger, right? Um, so it doesn't just make everything automatically better because you reached a certain number on a scale. Especially how did you get to that number on the scale? You know, are you going to be able to, keep that number on the scale? You have to do the other work around it and get your mind right, and not just like I think James mentioned earlier about people taking their calories just to make a number on the scale and stuff and doing it that way. I've seen people lower their fat to a point where it's way too low to Spazzy wants to join us, to sustain hormone health and brain function health and mood and stuff like that. Yeah, Spazzy. Yeah, okay. You want to go that way? Yeah, there you go. He's big and heavy. If you would jump on me. So, you know, the number on the scale doesn't fix everything because you can reach that number on the scale and your body still may not look the way you want it to. I'm an example of that. I've been called skinny fat, like the way that it was done, the way that the measurements went in. How does that make one person feel? So, you know, doing everything together, working for everything together. I wish I would have started lifting weights a long time ago, but I too grabbed onto that that little unicorn in the sky that all I needed to do was eat right and lose the weight that way. You know, I grabbed onto that myth, and that's not the only thing that you need to do. You need to do all the other things. You need to lift. You need to have consistency. You need to get light. You need to get sleep. All of those things. Okay, I'll be quiet right now.
Well, and I think it is one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves, but I also think that it's one of the biggest lies that a lot of coaches out there are unintentionally reinforcing to clients. Because, whether it's I'll be confident when I hit, X, Y, or Z, right? I'll enjoy life. I'll be able to do more, right? When I can wear these clothes, or when I can show up, this way, right? Once I'm smaller. Or they'll finally find the peace in their body when the fat is gone, or they'll, there's so many things that I end up and I hear, and I feel as though coaches don't say it enough, that the mentality keeps a person stuck, right? I can't tell you how many times I have told a client to work on the mental health side of things, to work on reframing, adjust that mental, mindset, right? Because that mindset is what is going to end up and keep you stuck. And so if you're working on that, right, if you're putting in the work, again, I said one of my biggest 3 things is the nervous system. Why? Because if you're in this constant state of sympathetic, right? And I throw that out there very loosely of I'm not there yet, or I'm, the negativity side of things, right? I get it. I lived there for years after, I had my hysterectomy and was over 200 pounds and divorce and, blah, 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 right? But it really took that working on the mindset, that reframing, restructuring. And it's still not perfect, right? We're coaches, we're human. It's still not perfect, but it's when you start creating these small wins that lead to the big success, right? I'm not going to go out and lift the same thing that, James does. I'm not going to go and, have the same diet or the same workout even, right? Sly would kick my ass in Zumba, right? There's things like that, right? Where I wouldn't be able to, because that's just not what I've done. But can I lift the weight where I'm at? Sure. And so building up and giving yourself, I guess, the permission to feel good during the process, not comparing yourself, because comparison is such the thief of joy, right? You can end up and find that happiness along the way.
What surprises your clients most when they realize health is more, or they realize that their health is more than just weight? We've all had them, right? What surprises them the most? Where did that light bulb go off?
I think for me, with a handful of clients, is just generally feeling better about themselves. There was never ever a specific health issue, but it was just that almost generally feeling, I feel good. I feel good about myself. I feel confident in myself. I feel better in myself, which is what I ask everybody every time I see them. How's your week been? Yeah, we don't give a shit about what it says on the scales. It's just a tangible number. It's just something that creates a lovely little graph, But how do you actually feel? Has anybody else noticed it? Has anybody else made a comment about it? You seem to feel better in yourself. You look better in yourself, or anything like that. I think those are the things that people need to focus on. Obviously, if someone's got something in terms of health, whether that be pre-diabetic, actually diabetic, lowering, whether it be HbA1c levels or, that type of thing, then yes, of course. Those things need to be taken into consideration. But I think just personally, the sort of spectrum of people that I work with, touching on what Becky said as well, it's just about getting them to kind of see it in themselves. and sort of notice it in themselves more than anything, you know. As coaches, we exactly know what can happen as part of a blueprint. So if we map out a client's journey, we can kind of predict what will happen. But I think it's more important to kind of allow that client to see it as well and feel it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to throw myself under the bus on that one. So we were on one of our BNC community meetings one night, and Coach Becky and Coach James were posting pictures of me to show me my progress because I was in that poor me, nothing's changing attitude. Yeah,
Spiral.
I really was, right? But Coach Sly, I also battle body dysmorphia as well, so I don't see it.
So
They're
do I.
like, "Oh my
So do
goodness,
I.
look, you do too." Yeah. I
Yeah.
think we all do. I think, yeah. And it was very hard for me to see the change. And they're like, "No, no, look." And I'm like, I don't see it, right? But it's energy. Like every week, Coach James checks in with me on non-scale victories and what do I need help or motivation on. And there's a whole litany of questions that I have to evaluate and tell him about how my week went. He even wants to know what's coming up in the next week, right? Am I going to be traveling? And it's something out of the ordinary, right? So again, it's when you realize that it's a health journey more than a weight loss journey. I think that's kind of the big takeaway on that. So what about that self-compassion? Um, and I've been there. If I'm too kind to myself, like I won't improve. And I was also carnivore for 2.5 years, and I was so militant on carnivore that if, let's say, bacon was cured with sugar, I would not buy it. So again, what about that self-compassion side of things, coaches? Coach Sly, what do you think?
I think there has to be, what's the word that I learned earlier, a dichotomy of it. There has to be a balance between compassion and giving yourself free reign. That's kind of how we got into the situation that we're in these days, anyways, because you know, everybody should be beautiful, but at what price, right? At what price do we lie to ourselves, or we give ourselves too much leeway with it? I could have said a lot of things last year of why I ended up where I ended up with my mental health, right? I could have said a lot of reasons why I had to call a professional and blame a lot of things of why I needed the medication. But in reality, it was because I did it. I gave myself too much compassion of like, or even that I'm too well, right? Not I'm well enough. I didn't have this weight to lose anymore. My mental health has been strong this amount of time. Maybe I cured myself. How many times have we done that to ourselves? Oh, I haven't had these symptoms for so long. Maybe I fixed me. You know, um, and we steer away from that. But like I I'm just really on this really just like the discipline equals freedom journey right now. That's really I like that saying. I like that, after this weekend, I stayed up late Saturday watching fireworks, right? Didn't get bed till late. I didn't sleep in my own bed. I got up early. You know, this morning, I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to get up and get my steps in. I didn't want to get up and get my workout in. I was even thinking about, because I have that EverFit app too, with the coach that I go to. And you can go over there and you can move that workout down just to the next day if you really want to, right? You can do those things on there. But, you know, that wasn't going to solve anything for me. So I made it work this morning. I got it taken care of. You know, I wasn't, even if I didn't get out of bed at the exact time that I wanted to, I did what I needed to do to make sure that my day was going to be good for myself. Does that mean if I'm sick and dying and throwing up that I need to get up and do that workout? No, that's the day that I say, no, I don't need to get up and do this stuff. I can take a day for myself. But if it's just me being a whiny butt because because I played a little too hard this weekend, it's probably not a good enough reason for me not to get up and do what I need to do for myself. That's all I got for right now.
Well, why is self-compassion such an important part of the long-term wellness?
Well, self-compassion, you have to have it because you have to be kind to yourself in the long run. You can't hold it just like anybody. Let's use it in an addict perspective, right? They have to have compassion for themselves for the things that they have done, the wrongs that they have done in the past, right? But we can't hold on to it. We can't hold on to it for dear life. We're never going to get well from it at that point. We need to be able to release the shame and guilt and, you know, the bad things that we have for that. But you got to find the dichotomy of it, to have the balance between the two, of giving yourself too much compassion or having enough compassion for yourself. And kindness, knowing that getting up and working out and eating the right things and going and get the first morning light and going to bed when you're supposed to and getting up when you're supposed to is also compassion for yourself and kindness to yourself.
Well, and that's where it's, you know, closely tied in also from before, right? When I lose weight, I'll feel better trap. You know, it's one of the self-compassion. It's nice. It's nice to have a foundation and have those non-negotiable parts of your journey, but also realizing again, right, that it doesn't have to be that perfect. It doesn't have to be perfection every day or the highlight reel, right? That most people are taught, right? And yes, that can be what drives results, but that can also end up and almost create like an OCD in people. So learning to, you know, yes, be disciplined, yes, be consistent, but also we tend to end up and be our own worst, like inner critic, if you will. And that can also backfire on us. So, you know, even through my own transformation, the stalls, the, you know, evolving or whatever you end up and you want to call it, right? Having that compassion that, did keto fail me? No, right? Did carnivore fail me? No. Did it provide what I personally needed in that individual aspect? You know, that's where people need to end up and look. And the compassion needs to become a daily practice alongside everything else, right? Being able to end up and put that in there and how we speak to ourselves, and using tools along the way that will end up and support that too.
Yeah, and I think just touching on what Becky said there about using the tools is like, as coaches, we can provide different tools to people so they can find out what works for them. You know, again, given their current situation at home and life, family, work, whatever it might be, they've got to find their own way ultimately. We are just facilitators. We just show them the door. They've got to walk through it. Mm-hmm. You know, we can give them the blueprint. They've got to, or the, you know, I'm going to stop with the analogies and shit. Basically, they've got to do the fucking work.
Yes. Do the fucking work.
Yeah.
Showing up and being accountable.
Exactly.
You know, that's one of the exercises we actually do in RAP in group is our toolbox, right? And we have this like drawing of the toolbox, and it has like all these different tools on there, but each person uses like, I mean, it actually has like the wrenches and screwdrivers and hammers on there, but they're different sizes and they're different whatever and stuff, and they can call them, but they fill in what their tool is in the toolbox, right? we don't tell them. We give them you can give somebody a list of tools, and you've got to figure out which one of these tools works right for you. You know?
100%. Yeah, 100%. You can work with a client for 1 month, 2 months, 7 months, 12 months, 18 months, you know, and you can still be working with them until something clicks, you know, and then once it clicks, and then they find their tool, then they start putting the work in, then they start seeing the results, then they start seeing, actually, do you know what it is? Yeah, this is worth it. Yeah, I'm not going to go back to the way I was, the whole poor me, pity me party shit. Yeah.
The real talk starts happening.
Yeah, they're going to keep working. They're going to realize that actually, yeah, this is this, or you know, yeah, James was right, Becky was right, Sly was right, Sherri was right. Yeah.
I love this. This is some great topics. I hope everybody is taking notes and at least mental notes, right? But here's the big one. I'm not making any progress. Right? Clients frequently overlook major victories because they're focused on the one outcome. I'm
not
guilty.
being funny there, Sherri, but you had me panicking. I thought you were making a confession. Sorry. Carry on.
See? There we go. Okay, I'm going to go on mute now and let them talk and pout.
Well, don't pout. Have you gotten rid of all those clothes that don't fit you yet, though?
No, I'm still hanging on to the big clothes that don't fit me anymore. Yeah, okay. I'm still hanging on. Yeah.
I did it too. It took me a long time. I finally had to force myself to do it. But if you go back to the James Clear book, right, Atomic Habits, and he talks about the bamboo, right? He talks about the growth of the bamboo. Like a high percentage of that, you don't see all the goodness that's going on. And then with consistency and time, one day it's just like, boom, there it goes. You know, that's usually what I refer back to it. But and still people don't understand that either, or it's not enough for them. Our society has ruined us on instant gratification, not just with coaches or unrealistic reels or highlights or anything like that. Instant gratification is in our life everywhere we get. From wanting something that's not in the stores, Amazon, fast food, Uber Eats, like all of it has ruined that for us of being patient and waiting for something to happen and not getting that instant gratification. And I think that's why it's important too. Like you said, I have the same questionnaire type thing that I have to do weekly myself with my coach. And, in putting those non-scale victories in and looking at more than one metric and seeing the success in it is why they do that, because you're not going to see the results you want right away. You're not going to get the fat off your hips when you want to. Or just because you've lost some weight, it's not good. Your body's just not going to do everything it wants you to do because you've done these 3 things, right? So you have to keep that mentality up and making sure you're getting those non-scale victories and seeing all these other things in your life. My first question in my questionnaire every week is, what am I grateful for? That's my very first question in my questionnaire.
Well, and I agree with you. I think that's the, unrealistic, right? Because progress isn't linear, right? The scale, the mirror, these soul measurements. Yes, it's great data. Like James said, it makes a pretty graph of what's happening, but the body is complex. And when we only look at, these certain few metrics, clients will come and say, I'm doing everything. Why ain't I seeing progress? Well, but they're missing some of the other key parts that may actually be, changing if they zoom out. I can't tell you how many times I've told a client, zoom out, right? Quit hyper focusing on just that one area And early on, maybe that's just the fact that you got out of bed easier, right? You lose that inflammation, or maybe you're eating the food and you don't have the bloat, right? It's not necessarily that the fat is changing and the scale is dropping, right? Or maybe you're sleeping better, deeper, right? It's not always just about the quantity of sleep as much as the quality. Um, so there's things like that, right? Because even though many people, come to us for body recomposition and weight loss, yes, like you get the mental health side of things, but there's also a body that is recalibrating hormones, rebuilding the muscle, replenishing the nutrients that it even takes to build the muscle, right? Sometimes that's where you have to start. And so, chasing these visible results, you got to zoom out into the real wins. And that's where sometimes, or oftentimes I should say, people do end up and sabotage themselves with frustration, and then they give up before the real results happen. And that, again, kind of goes back to, the jumping, the hopping, right? Track more than the weight. Track, maybe that's labs, maybe that's, other metrics that you can use, or simply being accountable to someone that you have to end up and celebrate those wins. You have to do those check-ins. You have to, be able to have that ability to dig deeper into what you're doing.
Yeah, and I'll throw myself again out there. I just recently had labs done. They are the best set of labs I think I've seen literally in decades. Um, that is a huge, huge non-scale victory, because if I go and look at the scale, I'm going to tell you nothing's changing. Point this is going down, but that's it, right? But zooming out and looking at the labs and seeing my labs, like I did a spreadsheet and I went all the labs that I had access to, I went back and put them in columns, and you can just see how much it's improved. Well, do you want health or do I want to lose weight? Well, I really want health, because health, I can get off my meds and have a better quality of life. So before we end this, let's kind of go around, and what is one thing you hope every listener remembers tonight, or some motivation you'd like to give them, anything like that? Who wants to start? Coach James?
Do the fucking work, and weight loss is a side effect.
That's my tagline.
Sorry, hang on, can I do that again? Do the fucking work, and weight loss is a side effect.
What he said.
You two are hilarious. I think the biggest takeaway is, even if you're not seeing progress, put it into phases. The phase right now, right? List 3 non-negotiable or non-scale victories that you have seen over the past 2, 3, 4 weeks. I also want to say, if anyone has questions while the 4 of us are on, throw it in the comments or in the chat over on Instagram. But commit to one non-negotiable a week, right? Keeping that 1% better, even every week, is going to end up and make you over 50% better than everyone else. So it doesn't have to be, drastic progress is happening. It's just sometimes quieter than others.
How about you, Miss Sherri?
I would have to say that real transformation happens one choice, one habit, one season at a time. This is not a sprint. This is for our health. And if that one choice helps, you did good, right? And keep going. You're not broken, and you don't need to be perfect, and you're not behind. Anybody else?
Yeah, I do end up have a question from over on Instagram. So, which is a good question because there's a lot of ways that we can end up and approach this. So I'll let each of you coaches speak to it. It's why does law of thermodynamics get so much backlash? Isn't that one of the biggest movers for weight loss regardless? I am a coach myself and I see clients come in overweight, yet they say they're only eating 1,000 calories. So this could end up be a soapbox for me, but I will keep it calories in, calories out. Is not what it is cracked up to be. The body, again, going back to the complex, right? Energy balance is the biggest mover. And if someone is only eating 1,000 calories, they've downregulated every hormonal process in their body and they will end up and stay stuck. It is going to end up and keep you in a stressed out state. And the body is going to hold on to everything that it can, no matter how hard you try to end up and push your body. And so that's where, hormones are going to protect. Nervous system is going to end up and find it as a, scarcity. And so it is going to end up and start to downregulate the thyroid conversion process. And so that's where if someone's only eating 1,000 calories, they need to do a refeed. They need to slowly bring that back up, refire the metabolism. We do only get energy from food one way. So keep that in mind as well, that the signals come from various aspects, not just calories. But go ahead, coaches.
My question to that person would be, who the fuck told them to eat 1,000 calories a day? Where the fuck did they get that from? Mm-hmm. It's a re-education thing. Yeah, like who said that eating 1,000 calories a day would almost zap the fat off you? Again, just I would reiterate everything Becky said, but I don't need to because she's already said it. But my point would be, where the fuck did you get that from? Pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
In my own blunt way that I'm known for. Yeah.
Well, and I think that goes back to because people end up and get told to eat like
I know
a bird,
where they've got it from.
Right?
It'll be from some twat on TikTok or whatever it might be. Yeah. Who's got this amazing end result? And yeah, all I ate was 1,000 calories and all I fucking ate was celery and cucumber every day and drank nettle water and all this sort of shit. Yeah.
That would probably be my next question is what kind of 1,000 calories are they eating?
Yeah.
Like what kind of 1,000 calories are they eating? Besides all the other things that people are saying right here. I literally got into a discussion with a friend of mine one time. And, she was like, well, if I'm in a calorie deficit and I eat Snickers, I can still lose weight. Okay. But that would be my question. And then and everything else above what the other two coaches said.
Well, and calorie counting is inaccurate. Food labels, portion estimates, calorie calculators, they're off. I hate to burst people's bubbles, right? And we could probably have a podcast alone on that topic, right? But they're estimates. And so if I'm calorie counting, I'm not getting a true exact number. And then we all burn calories at different rates. And metabolism varies, like Becky said, the hormones and appetite. And, are we lifting heavy like James? And, there is so much more that goes into that it's too simplistic of a diet strategy in my opinion.
Yep. For sure. Awesome. Well, that's the only question that I ended up and had. So on that note, thanks everyone.
All right. So let me go back here. I wanted to tell you what's happening. And of course, it's not coming up. So we are not going to have the podcast next week. I'm actually going on vacation. So we are skipping July 13th. So you can take the opportunity, go back, listen to some old podcasts. But when we come back, what is that? The 22nd, Becky? Okay.
Sure.
We have somebody that's been on the podcast before. She started her health journey in 2014. And when I tell you morbidly obese, that is an understatement. We've had Kalika on our podcast before. You can go back and watch it. I have noticed something changing in her, and it was time to have her back on to give us an update and see what's changed. So, in the meantime, if what this topic tonight from these 4 coaches resonated with you, or you think somebody needs to hear what we had to say, feel free to share it. Feel free, of course, to like and subscribe, and you can follow us on social media. Anything, Becky uploads these to the iHeartRadio and the Apple podcast and the
Spotify, iHeart Music.
yeah. So, thank you, Coach James. Thank you, Coach Sly. Thank you, Coach Becky. Again, we will not be here next week. We'll be here the week after. If there's a topic you want to hear, let us know in the chat. We welcome those. Any final words before we end this? Coach James.
I was going to say something funny there, but I'm not going to bother. I'm going to brush my beard and go to bed. So good night, everybody.
Good night.
On that note, good night, everyone. And it is July 20th that we will have Kalika, not the 22nd, but
Okay.
you were close enough. On the final note, since we won't be live next week, happy early birthday, Sherri. Hopefully you have a wonderful birthday on your vacation.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday to you.
Oh,
Happy
birthday
birthday
burpees for you and your
to
workouts then, Sherri, yeah?
Happy birthday, Sherri.
I just got myself a harder
birthday to
workout.
you.
Yay.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you the 20th.